Please take me with you, she whispered, her voice dry and broken as her knees buckled beneath her. Julian stepped forward just in time, catching her before her body hit the frozen ground. Let me help you. Not yet knowing that the woman in his arms had endured far more than the cold, she had survived the weight of silence, shame, and a system that was never built for her. Enjoy the stories that are often overlooked. Stories of Black women rising through the pain of racism, rejection, and being constantly underestimated. If you're here, you're not just watching a drama, you're witnessing a truth that echoes beyond fiction. Don't forget to subscribe and share where you're watching from. We want to know your voice. This isn't just a love story, it's a reckoning, a rise, a reminder that no matter how hard the world tries to erase her, she writes her ending. Stay until the final second. This one is for her. Emily Johnson pressed against the cold granite floor of the Stone family foyer, her heart hammering as the heavy front door slammed shut behind Nathaniel's retreating figure. Snow from outside melted in rivulets near her heels, yet the chill inside her chest burned hotter than any winter wind could. She clenched her belly instinctively as a spike of fear shot into her gut. Her child's first home had just been stripped away in a breathless moment of betrayal. She remembered the promise so vividly. I will take care of you and our baby, Nathaniel had whispered in the darkened library a week ago, his voice husky, compelling. Tonight she realized that the promise was built on sand. Her knuckles, white from pressing against her palms, ached from the effort of staying upright. The grand chandelier above cast an opulent glow across marble floors and velvet curtains. Yet Emily felt smaller than ever, invisible to the glittering world around her. Victoria Stone, Nathaniel's mother, swept past as if Emily didn't exist, her designer coat flaring, a predator's flourish. A fleeting glance from Victoria said it all. Disdain. Emily was helpful. She was nothing more. She was someone to be ignored, or worse, discarded. The accusation had been clear. Emily Johnson lacks refinement. She doesn't belong here. Emily's cheeks burned, not from the cold, but from humiliation deeper than any winter sting. In the kitchen, the cook pretended not to see her as Emily moved quickly to gather her things. A small duffel bag of her meager belongings and a pink fleece blanket meant for the baby. The cook avoided her gaze, but Emily felt understood in that look of silent apology. Someone who recognized blame without words. She passed through the kitchen staff, who kept their heads down. They had heard Victoria call her a vulgar, impudent servant who dared to hope for more. Shame pooled in Emily's eyes, but faith flared beneath. She would not let their scorn define her. When she reached the threshold between the foyer and the night beyond, she paused. The cold air pressed on, carrying flakes of snow that clung to her hair. She could stay and beg, but what for? For a lie? She knew every opulent detail in this fortress of privilege never belonged to her. The soft trot of security guard footsteps behind her made Emily stiffen. She had nowhere else to go, no one to turn to. Her breath came in shallow bursts, fogging like tiny ghosts in the crisp night. She gripped the duffel, pressed her forehead to the doorframe, and blinked back tears she had no right to. Nathaniel's voice echoed again in her mind. The promise, thick with false sincerity. Now it felt like a taunt. She had believed in him, in his smooth tones, his casual touches during late-night conversations that had felt like safety. He had made her feel seen until this moment. She had let down her guard, and he had broken her faith carefully, surgically, during dinner when Victoria had said, "He'll marry someone who upholds our family's reputation, not a housekeeper's child." Nathaniel had nodded too quickly, eyes flicking to Emily for just a heartbeat before sliding guiltlessly away with polite regret. She edged into the falling snow. A single flash of headlights revealed a town car parked in front, waiting to whisk someone else into their protected world. Emily swallowed back bile of envy. That car took them to gala dinners and black-tie nights. For her, a lifetime in corridors behind the scenes. She lowered her gaze, slid her bag onto the sidewalk, and sank to the snow-dusted gravel stairs. The world felt loud, but speaking in a language she no longer understood. A distant factory whistle sounded, too far to comfort, too real to ignore. She closed her eyes and let the pain come. The betrayal, the abandonment, the shame, the hunger, and the need to be someone who mattered. The baby put a hand on her mind, a life silently pleading. Emily drew in a breath, exhaled through cold lips, and let resolve seep into the wreckage. She would rise, not for Nathaniel or Victoria or their money and contempt, but for this child and for herself. The wind picked up, swirling snow at her shoulders like a vengeful curtain. She pulled the blanket tighter. She thought of her mother long gone, who had taught her to hold her head high no matter what. Never let your value be defined by those too weak to see it. It rang true now, louder than any vow spoken in that golden foyer. From the corner of her eye, she saw movement, a shadow detaching from the darkness behind the town car. Julian Blackwood stepped forward, tall and poised, coat whispering as it fell around him. His expression was unreadable, but his posture said purpose. He paused by the stairs, taking in the tableau. Emily, fragile and determined, wrapped in snow and defiance. He moved closer, a single beat of proximity, and then he crouched. The cold in his eyes softened. "Miss Johnson, are you all right?" he asked quietly, concern threading his voice. She shook her head, unexpected emotion catching her throat. He offered a glove. She hesitated, chest tight, but took it. His hand was gentle as he tucked it over hers. It was the first warm touch she had felt all evening. She fought tears, her pulse racing as she realized she was being seen again. Not by someone paying the bills, but someone who seemed to understand pain without owning it. His presence radiated calm authority. He didn't judge as Victoria had. He didn't pity as some might. He extended the other gloved hand. She almost laughed at the absurdity. A billionaire rescuing a housekeeper from the street. But when she touched his hand, she also felt a fragile ember of hope. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you somewhere warm." Her instincts screamed caution, but beneath that, a whisper answered, "You deserve warmth. You deserve dignity. You deserve more." Emily closed her eyes, nodded, and allowed him to guide her. Behind her, the stone's lights shimmered like distant daggers she was abandoning. As Julian led her to his car, Emily inhaled sharp winter air and let the night swallow her fear. In her fingertips, buried under the snow-dusted blanket, her future unfurled like a fragile bloom. And as the car door closed, shutting out the harsh world behind her, she understood clearly. This was no rescue mission. This was the start of her reckoning. Emily pressed her back against the steering wheel of the battered Honda, the engine's shallow wheeze matching her own ragged breaths. Dawn had turned to pale afternoon by the time she found herself in the deserted Walmart parking lot, the stray slush under her feet reminding her how far she'd fallen. The uneven asphalt compressed the silence, broken only by her labored inhales and the faint hum of traffic miles away. Mercy had slipped through her fingers like melted snow. Without a plan, without a home, and carrying another life inside her, she had become the world's afterthought. She pressed a trembling hand to her swollen belly, tracing the outline of the child growing within. It was a reckless act, kissing a dream she barely dared to call her own. But this fragile life was the only truth she possessed. And yet, hope felt distant. She was stuck at the bottom of a well she had tunneled herself into, turning her nails and raw faith into gravel under her skin. The phone buzzed with a familiar number. She recognized her sister's name, Keisha. Glimmer of warmth in a frozen world. But with each day she had avoided the call, crumbling pride convincing her that she was unworthy of reach, unworthy of help. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Maybe I'll lie. Maybe I'll pretend I'm still employed. But guilt bore down. She couldn't lie to Kesha. Not anymore. Not after lying to herself for so long. "Emily?" Kesha's voice trembled. "You okay? You missed your appointment again." I'm fine," Emily choked out, voice cracking. She shifted in the driver's seat, the seatbelt rubbing her shoulder. "Just tired." "Kesh, I've tried calling all week. You haven't returned any messages. I'm worried." Emily closed her eyes, swallowed fierce tears. What if I admit the truth? She'll see me broken. She took a shaky breath. "I lost my job. I can't find anything. They won't hire me. Pregnant." A gasp at the other end. "Emily, are you homeless?" That question shattered her. She pressed her head to the steering wheel and sobbed quietly. Yes, I'm homeless. The anger came surging, a referee in a boxing match. Why didn't they see me as a person, not just a maid? But she swallowed it, softening it into fear. Tears warmed her cheek as she spoke to her sister. I'm staying here tonight. Okay, I can send money, Kesha said. Don't stay behind. You need shelter. Emily shook her head. No. Kesh? The concern was sharp now. Emily hated the rise in her sister's voice because it reminded her how utterly she'd failed. I don't want charity. I'll be fine. She closed the call and dropped the phone, mouth bitter with lies. The sun drooped west, chilling the air again as it fell behind distant warehouses. Emily rubbed her face and unbuckled the seatbelt. She had to move. She tried the door handle. Locked. She pulled her legs out and stepped into the cold. She wrapped her arms around herself, instinctively rubbing her belly. Hunger gnawed, a persistent reminder of vulnerability. She scanned the lot. One flickering street lamp, a trash bin rusting under its weak glow. She saw a discarded bag of crackers inside. She shook a guilty finger. Survive, she whispered. In the back of the car, she found a half-empty bottle of water. Holding it against her lips, she inhaled sharply. It tasted like salvation. She choked back relief. You're still here, she told herself. Your kid is still here. But as the light faded, fatigue overwhelmed her. She sank onto the hood, her dress damp with snow from morning, and leaned back. She gazed at the glass towers of the city skyline in the distance. Houses of people with homes and futures and hope. In their windows, lights now flicked on. Inside, people laughed. She closed her eyes, holding the water bottle like a lifeline. A shout echoed from inside the store. Security guard. Flashlight sweeping. Emily froze. She pressed herself into the hood of the car. Don't move. Her mind raced. I'll go in. I'll ask. But the cold stiffness of her body said no. She stayed still, wanted to vanish. The guard's steps slowed near her car. Emily looked up and dropped her head. Get out. But she had nowhere. The guard's voice came muffled over PA. Ma'am, you need to leave. No loitering. She swallowed hard. They know. She stood with effort, pack draped over her shoulder. She looked into the glow of the parking lot. She couldn't stay. She couldn't walk. She took a breath, stumbled forward. Her legs trembled on the bloom of snow-misted asphalt. Another shout. Miss, I will have to call. Emily kept walking. Snow whispered around her, cold pinpricks on her cheeks, and she kept walking until shoes slipped into deep, patchy snow. She stumbled, gasped. She made it another few steps. Keep walking. But fatigue pinned her to the ground. Somewhere beneath her, heart pounding with the struggle to breathe, she curled herself into a bud of protectiveness. She tried to whisper comforting words to her child. It's okay, it's okay. But her eyelids fluttered. The world blurred. The last thing she sensed before giving in was snow melting on her eyelashes. She didn't fall asleep. She fainted. A moment later, a sudden flashlight strobed near her. She gasped, eyes opening to harsh light and presence. A figure approached. Emily's mind stuttered in recognition. A dark silhouette in long coat. Her eyelids drooped. She could only muster a weak thought. I cannot go back, but her body would not go any further. She braced for shame. Snowflakes drifted around her as the figure knelt. He said something, words she didn't catch. He spoke her name gently. Her heart clenched. Emily closed her eyes once more. The night held her. The baby stirred faintly inside. Hope flickered dimly. She would live. She would survive. She would rise. Because if she could see a stranger rush to her when her world crumbled, maybe, just maybe, someone could see the worth she'd lost long ago. The world came back in pieces, cold first, then pain. Her fingers burned, stiff from the frost that had crept through the thin gloves. Her back ached against the concrete, and her breath came shallow, each inhale cracking like glass in her chest. Emily opened her eyes, blinking against a white sky smeared with gray. She tried to sit up, but her limbs didn't obey. She was weightless, suspended somewhere between fading and surviving. A shadow moved above her. Emily? The voice cut through the numb fog, low and urgent, like thunder wrapped in velvet. She blinked again. The face was familiar, but her vision blurred the details. His coat flared around him like the wings of something mythic, black against the snowfall. He was kneeling, gloved hands cupping her shoulders as if she might slip away. For a moment, she thought she had. Then the panic returned. She tried to push up, but her body collapsed inward. Her lips parted, a hoarse whisper crawling out. "Water!" Julian Blackwood leaned closer. His eyes, steel blue, sharp with concern, scanned her face. "Can you hear me? Are you hurt?" Emily couldn't answer. She was too tired to lie, too cold to pretend she wasn't breaking. But she saw him now, clearly. She remembered the gala where their worlds had briefly brushed, him towering in a tailored suit beside Nathaniel Stone, aloof and unreadable. That night she had cleared champagne flutes while guests toasted futures she would never taste. Now that same man, an untouchable billionaire, was crouched in slush beside her like he belonged there. He shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her without hesitation. She flinched at the sudden warmth, instinctively curling into it, like an animal protecting its last breath. "I've called my doctor. Ambulance will take too long," Julian said, voice clipped but steady. "You're coming with me." "No," she rasped. "No hospitals." He paused. His eyes narrowed, not with judgment, but calculation. He read the fear in her like a stock chart, line by line, rising, dipping, trembling. "You're safe," he said quietly. "I'll take care of it." She wanted to scream. "No one takes care of me." But she couldn't even form the words. Her body betrayed her again, sagging against him. She felt herself being lifted, cradled as if she weighed nothing, as if she mattered. The car door opened with a click, warm leather interior greeting her with silent grace. Julian slid in beside her, directing the driver with swift precision. "Penthouse. Call Elise. Tell her we have a patient." As the city blurred by, Emily closed her eyes and let the heat seep into her bones. Every bump in the road echoed in her stomach. She placed her hand there instinctively, still there, still holding on. When they reached the high-rise, Julian carried her through a lobby of glass and stone. People stared. No one stopped him. His presence silenced questions. Elevators opened without a word. The penthouse was pristine, expansive, floor-to-ceiling windows, a fireplace already lit, a scent of cedar and clean linen. Emily lay on a chaise by the window while Julian barked orders into a phone, his voice taut with efficiency. He wasn't the kind of man who fumbled. Not with words, not with people, not with emergencies. She watched him through half-lidded eyes. The firelight caught in his hair, turning it gold at the edges. Who was he? And why had he helped her? A woman entered, mid-30s, sharp-eyed, coat still on. "Elise Carter," she said briskly. "Private physician." Emily tensed. Julian stepped forward. "She stays," he told Elise. "Nothing invasive. She's afraid." Elise nodded, kneeling beside her. "I'm here to help, Miss Johnson. Just a checkup. You're stable, but I need to monitor dehydration. And the baby." Emily clutched her belly. "He's okay." A heartbeat. Then Elise's smile softened. "Heartbeat is strong. You've been lucky." Lucky. The word stabbed. Julian watched from the corner, hands clenched behind his back. He didn't interrupt. When Elise was done, she stood and whispered something to Julian. He nodded once, then turned back to Emily. "Do you want to rest here?" he asked. Emily looked around. The room was warm, quiet, safe, but it wasn't hers. She pulled the coat tighter. "I don't understand. Why did you help me?" Julian tilted his head slightly. "You're not the kind of woman the world should forget." She wanted to laugh. "You don't know me." "I remember you," he said, "from the Stones' winter gala. You wore the green dress with white gloves. You stood straighter than any of the guests." She blinked, stunned. "I saw Nathaniel," he continued. "The way he looked at you, like you were disposable. I hate men like that." Her throat tightened. "He is the father." Julian nodded slowly, unsurprised. "And he left you." Emily looked down, ashamed, but he stepped closer, not pitying, not preaching, just present. "You don't owe me anything," Julian said, "but if you want to stay, I'll arrange everything. Food, clothes, medical care." Emily hesitated. She had no reason to trust him, but her body was too tired to run. And in his voice, she heard no trap, just steadiness, like steel under velvet. "I can work," she whispered. "Don't just give me things." He smiled barely. "You will, when you're ready." That night after Elise left, Emily lay in a room of her own. Cream sheets, heavy quilt, a nightstand with warm tea. She stared at the ceiling and waited for shame to return, but it didn't. What she felt was something new, not comfort, not quite safety, but space, breathing room. And that, for a black woman, discarded by the powerful, felt revolutionary. She touched her belly and whispered, "We're still here." Outside, snow fell quietly against glass. Inside, firelight flickered. Emily had no idea what tomorrow would demand, but tonight she had made it through. And for the first time in weeks, she fell asleep without fear. The light through the penthouse windows poured in golden, too warm, too gentle. Emily opened her eyes slowly, her body sinking into the weight of real sheets, not worn fabric or bundled coats. She lay still, afraid to disturb the calm, as if movement might shatter it. For a moment, she couldn't place where she was. Then the memories returned, falling, freezing, the sound of footsteps in snow. Julian's voice, the coat around her shoulders, the silence of his hands, doing what no one else had. Staying. The room around her was elegant but minimal. Cream walls, a soft gray armchair, a low marble table with fresh fruit and a folded note. She sat up, the sheet slipping from her shoulder, and reached for it with cautious fingers. "Take your time, breakfast is warm." J. The handwriting was precise, strong. She stared at the letter, pulse unsteady. He hadn't asked for gratitude, hadn't demanded her story. Just this, space. That was new. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and toast. A woman in an apron smiled as Emily entered, hesitating at the threshold. "Morning, Miss Johnson. I'm Mara. Mr. Blackwood asked me to prepare something light for you." Emily didn't answer immediately. Her eyes scanned the kitchen. Sleek lines, black stone counters, soft hum of luxury beneath every surface. She did not belong here. And yet here she was, breathing, upright, alive. "Thank you," she murmured. "That's kind of you." Mara served oatmeal, fruit, and warm tea. Emily ate slowly, every bite unfamiliar. Her hands trembled slightly. She hadn't had a real breakfast in weeks. She kept her head down, grateful for the silence. Julian returned at midday. He stepped in without ceremony, dressed in black slacks and a navy coat, phone in hand. He nodded at Mara, then turned to Emily with eyes that registered everything. Her posture, her skin tone, the tension in her shoulders. "You look stronger," he said. "I feel less cold," she replied, then added, "Thank you for this." Julian offered a brief smile and sat across from her. His presence was sharp, focused, like every word he chose mattered. Emily respected that. She didn't want softness. She wanted truth. "I want to work," she said. "You said I could." He didn't blink. "I meant it. There's an opening, executive assistant to the director of R&D. Temporary but high stakes. The work is demanding." "I don't care," she said quickly. "I just need a start." Julian leaned back, watching her. "You'll have to prove yourself. No one knows who you are in my company. That's a gift. Don't waste it." Emily nodded. Her jaw tightened. She wouldn't. He handed her a phone. "Everything's set up. Take the day to rest. You start tomorrow. I'll send a car." Emily stared at the phone in her palm. Sleek, clean, real, like it belonged to someone else. But her reflection stared back in the screen. Tired, yes, but not broken. The next morning she dressed in a black blazer Mara had altered for her. No makeup, no jewelry, just focus. When the driver opened the door for her, she stepped out like she'd done it all her life. Inside Blackwood Tech, she walked past glass walls and whispered greetings. Everything smelled of ambition, steel, coffee, and the nervous energy of people fighting for a future. She was led to a corner office by a man named Bennett. Graying hair, clipped speech, no patience for weakness. "You report to me," he said. "I don't care who you know. If you drop the ball, I drop you." Emily met his eyes. "Understood." The hours passed like war drills, Emails, meeting notes, data sheets, corrections. She made 2 mistakes before noon. Bennett didn't yell. He just stared at her like she was replaceable. That she could handle. By the third day, she had memorized the code system, anticipated his questions, and reorganized the department's schedule with military precision. She stayed late, arrived early, drank bitter coffee, and pretended she didn't hear the whispers about the girl from nowhere, the mystery hire. She didn't care. But each night, when the driver dropped her back at the penthouse, she passed through the lobby feeling like a stranger. The doorman always smiled, but her body flinched as if she didn't deserve doors opening for her. That shame clung tighter than snow. One night, after a 14-hour day, she collapsed on the couch. Julian entered minutes later. He set a file on the coffee table, then looked at her. "You've impressed Bennett." Emily blinked, disoriented. "I didn't think he liked anyone." "He doesn't," Julian said. "But he respects precision. You gave him that." Silence lingered. Emily's hands were red from typing. Her back throbbed. But inside, something pulsed stronger. Dignity. "I'm not weak," she said suddenly. "I want you to know that." Julian walked to the window, hands behind his back. "I never thought you were." She watched him in profile, the city lights painting gold across his jaw. "Why did you help me?" she asked again. Julian turned. "Because I know what it's like to be underestimated, and I know what it takes to crawl out of it." Emily nodded slowly. She understood, more than words could say. That weekend, she found an old email account, logged in, and saw dozens of unread messages from her college days, professors, scholarship boards. She'd walked away from a full ride once, when her mother got sick. That life had waited, then passed her by. She closed the laptop, then opened it again. Maybe it wasn't too late. Weeks passed. Her stomach swelled. She didn't hide it. She wore fitted dresses and flat shoes and dared anyone to say she didn't belong. No one did. Her silence had become armor, her competence, a weapon. And still, every night she sat by the window and wrote in a leather notebook Julian had given her. Not a diary, a ledger, of promises broken, of goals reclaimed, of the woman she was building, brick by unshakable brick. On the day she was promoted to project coordinator, Julian sent no message. Just a single red envelope on her desk. Inside a card. "You did this, not me." Emily smiled, lips tight. Because he was right. She was no longer the girl in the snow. She was the storm rising from it. The rain hit the glass like a warning. Thin needles of water traced jagged paths down the window, slicing the New York skyline into broken shards. Emily stood in the boardroom of Blackwood Tech's R&D tower, back straight, palms pressed against the cold conference table. Her team waited behind her, engineers, analysts, designers, all glancing nervously at the visitor list for the meeting that had, until 5 minutes ago, seemed routine. She didn't see the name, but she felt it, a shift in the air, a familiar weight, the taste of betrayal returning like blood in the mouth. The doors opened. Nathaniel Stone walked in like the room owed him its breath. Tall, crisp suit, platinum cufflinks gleaming under soft lighting. Not a hair out of place. But Emily didn't flinch, not even when his eyes scanned the room and locked on her. He hesitated for just a beat. That beat was everything. She felt the room tilt, not from fear, but fury. He looked different, leaner maybe, a scar along his jawline she hadn't seen before. But his presence hadn't changed. Calculated charm, polished ego, the scent of inherited confidence. "Good afternoon," he said smoothly, walking forward. "Nathaniel Stone, Stone Tech Holdings." Bennett, standing beside Emily, extended a hand. "We've been expecting a representative from Stone Tech." Nathaniel smiled. "Apologies. Change in plans. I decided to take a personal interest in this partnership." Emily's skin prickled. A personal interest. Of course. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She let the silence stretch, heavy and deliberate. But Nathaniel turned to her. "Emily," he said, softer now, like a man trying to disarm a bomb he built. Every eye in the room turned to her. "Mr. Stone," she replied evenly. Her voice did not crack. Julian wasn't present. He'd sent her to lead this meeting alone, his trust loud and clear. And now, standing across from the man who had once discarded her like a stain on a luxury carpet, she understood why. This was a test, not of her job, of her resolve. Nathaniel blinked. It was quick, but she caught it. Surprise, discomfort. She hadn't folded. She hadn't run. She was standing tall, visibly pregnant, in the highest office floor of a company Nathaniel once joked would never survive a merger. He took the chair across from her. I wasn't aware you worked here. I do, Emily said, and I lead this team. Another blink. Bennett cleared his throat. Shall we begin? The presentation was numbers, market gaps, tech integration, projections, but every word Emily spoke carved lines in the marble between her and Nathaniel. She was fluent, focused, brutally efficient. Every time he tried to interrupt, she kept speaking, controlled, sharp. When someone on the Stone Tech team tried to talk over her, she countered with precision. Her hands didn't shake, not once. After the meeting, as the room emptied, Nathaniel lingered. Bennett nodded at her, silently offering the choice. She nodded back. Let him stay. They stood alone in the quiet. You look strong, Nathaniel said finally. He sounded like he meant it. That made it worse. I am, Emily answered. You didn't return my calls. I changed my number. He stepped closer. I didn't know you were pregnant that night. You knew the second I told your mother, she snapped, and you let her drag me out like trash. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Regret flickered in his eyes, but Emily had no appetite for it. I was afraid, he said, afraid of losing everything. You didn't lose anything, she said, voice rising. I did. My job, my home, my dignity. You stood there and watched. I never stopped thinking about you. She laughed once, sharp and bitter. Then you had time to build a fantasy. I lived the reality. Nathaniel exhaled. I made a mistake. You made a choice, she corrected. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded paper. I signed over custody rights. If you want that changed, I don't, she said, cutting him cleanly. I don't need your name or your help. This child has a future because I fought for it. His jaw flexed. You're with Blackwood now. Her eyes narrowed. You mean, did I sleep my way here? Her voice was ice. No, but even if I had, it would still be better than being discarded by a coward. Nathaniel's face darkened. You've changed. I've grown. He looked at her for a long moment. I didn't come here to fight. You didn't come here for me either, she said. You came because you realized I wasn't gone, and that scares you. Silence. Then slowly Nathaniel nodded. I deserved that. You deserved worse. She turned, heels clicking as she walked past him. He didn't follow. Back at her desk, her hands trembled. Not from fear, but from release. She sat, exhaled. Mara appeared in the doorway, holding her phone. Julian's asking if you need anything. Emily shook her head. Tell him I handled it. Mara hesitated. And are you okay? Emily looked out the window. Rain still slashed at the glass, but behind it, the sky was clearing. I'm more than okay, she said. I'm exactly where I need to be. And for the first time since she walked away from that mansion, she felt it. Not just survival, power, not just resistance, mastery. Nathaniel Stone had returned, but he no longer held the pen to her story. She did. The storm had passed, but the heat lingered. Emily stood on the balcony of Julian's penthouse, wrapped in a linen robe, her hands resting over her belly. The city buzzed below. Horns, sirens, life moving too fast. But here, 27 floors above the noise, time felt suspended. The air was thick with late spring warmth, heavy with the scent of rain-drenched concrete and jasmine from the rooftop garden nearby. She had survived fire. She had walked through ice. But this silence, was what unsettled her most. Behind her, the glass door slid open. Julian stepped into the moonlight, his white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up, the soft amber light from inside brushing across the strong lines of his face. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, watching her as if she were a question he still hadn't answered. You didn't sleep, he said. Emily turned her head slightly. Neither did you. He took a step forward, then another. The air between them charged instantly, like static before lightning. She could smell the clean scent of his skin, feel the gravity in his silence. I saw the security footage, he said finally, his voice low, from the meeting with Nathaniel. She stiffened. You didn't need to watch that, she said. I did, he replied, because I needed to see how you held your ground, because I couldn't stop thinking about it since Bennett told me what happened. Emily faced him fully now. And what did you see? Julian's gaze locked onto hers. I saw a woman who didn't flinch, who didn't beg, who didn't look away from the man who hurt her. I saw fire. She swallowed hard. Her fingers tightened against the edge of the balcony. You helped me, she said. You saved me. I didn't save you, he said, stepping closer. You pulled yourself out. I just opened the door. Their eyes held for a beat too long. Emily could feel the shift. The ground between them was no longer neutral. Something stirred underneath it, something neither of them had dared name. You don't owe me anything, Worser, Julian continued. But there's something I've been trying not to say for weeks now, because I didn't want to complicate your healing, or mine. Emily felt her heart thunder. Say it. Julian hesitated. Then he moved closer, so close she could feel his breath. I'm falling for you. Silence slammed into her chest like wind against a closed window. She wanted to move, but her legs refused. She wanted to respond, but her voice caught in her throat. Everything inside her twisted. Fear, want, guilt, disbelief. 1,000 defenses rose like shields, but not one of them made sense now. Julian, She broke off. He didn't push. He waited. She closed her eyes. This can't be real. It is, he said. You just don't trust it yet. She opened her eyes and they were glassy. Every man who ever looked at me like that wanted to own something. My body, my silence, my shame. Not one ever saw me. Julian stepped so close she could feel the warmth radiating from him. I see you, Emily. I see everything. She stared at him, breathing ragged, her chest tight. I'm still pregnant. I'm still messy. I still don't know who I'm going to be after all this. Good, he said softly. Then I'll have the honor of finding out with you. Something cracked inside her, and then she kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was heat and hunger and heartbreak crashing together like glass on tile. Her hands curled into his shirt, his fingers splayed across her lower back, drawing her closer, anchoring her to something that felt terrifyingly alive. They kissed like people who had bled and clawed and barely made it through. Like people who knew time wasn't promised. Like survivors. When they finally broke apart, their foreheads pressed together, breath tangled, she whispered, You don't get to disappear after this. I won't, he promised. Even if you run, I'll still be here. The next morning, she found herself in his kitchen barefoot, cooking eggs. It was the simplest act in the world, but her hands trembled. He came up behind her, placed his hands gently over hers, steadying them without words. Later, when they sat together eating in silence, he asked, What scares you most right now? Emily didn't look up. That I'll lose myself in this, in you. Julian nodded. Then don't. She finally met his gaze. You make it sound easy. No, he said. I make it sound worth it. That night, as she lay beside him with his arm draped gently over her stomach, she realized something terrifying and beautiful. She had found joy, not comfort, not safety, joy. And that terrified her more than betrayal ever could. Because joy could be stolen, lost, burned away. But not tonight. Tonight she let the fire stay. The invitation arrived on heavy cream-colored cardstock, sealed in gold wax with the Stone family crest. Elegant, expensive, ironic. Emily turned it over in her hands, the edges smooth like a blade. The handwriting was unmistakable. Priscilla Stone's, practiced and poisonous. She read the name of the event aloud. Annual Winter Philanthropy Gala, honoring legacy. Legacy. That word had once shackled her. Now it felt like an opportunity, a stage. Julian watched from across the room, leaning against the doorframe in a dark blue shirt, sleeves rolled up, silent but alert. He didn't need to ask if she would go. He already knew. This wasn't about fashion or forgiveness. This was about fire. "Do you want me there?" he asked. Emily looked up, eyes steady. "I need to do this alone." He nodded once. No argument, just trust. The day of the gala arrived in a gust of cold wind in paparazzi flashes. Emily stepped from the black car in a gown the color of midnight oil. Sleek, fitted, no sleeves, no apologies. Her skin glowed against it like burnished bronze. Every curl of her hair was deliberate. Every step in her stilettos was a declaration, "I am not hiding anymore." The stone estate loomed in front of her, grand and bloodless, as it had always been. Inside, violins played something delicate. Champagne flowed in glasses taller than truth. She walked through the crowd without flinching, every head turning, every whisper too late to sting. She didn't need their approval. Their discomfort was her weapon now. And then she saw her, Priscilla Stone, older, still immaculate. Her gown shimmered with icy silver, neckline cut sharp like her tongue. The woman's smile twitched at the sight of Emily. It didn't reach her eyes. "Miss Johnson," Priscilla said smoothly, stepping forward. "How unexpected." Emily met her gaze with surgical calm. Not as unexpected as a woman who throws out her son's child like spoiled wine and then hosts galas about legacy. The room hushed. Priscilla's eyes flared. "That tone doesn't suit you." Emily tilted her head. "Neither did your family's silence when I was bleeding in a motel with your grandchild in my belly." A waiter passed. Emily took a flute of champagne, never breaking eye contact. She didn't drink it. She didn't need liquid courage. Priscilla's voice dropped. "You don't belong here." "I built my place," Emily said, "with no name, no favors, no family shield, just fire." Behind them, Nathaniel appeared. He hadn't changed much. Still polished, still empty. His eyes flicked between the two women, wary. "Emily," he said, forcing a smile, "it's good you came. Mother was just saying—" "She wasn't," Emily cut in. "But it's okay. I didn't come to be welcomed. I came to remind you." Nathaniel blinked. "Remind us of what?" She stepped forward, her voice razor smooth. "That power is nothing without conscience. That reputation means little if it's built on silence, and that your bloodline will not write my child's story. I will." Whispers spread through the guests now. Journalists edged closer. Phones clicked photos behind champagne flutes. Priscilla's lips tightened. "You're making a scene." "I am the scene," Emily said. "And don't worry, I'll leave. But I'll leave with the one thing none of you could destroy." Nathaniel stiffened. "What's that?" "My dignity." With that, she turned. The crowd parted around her like water. She walked through it, slow, deliberate, untouchable. Her pulse thundered, but her spine stayed straight. She didn't look back. Outside, the cold bit harder than before, but she welcomed it. Julian was already waiting at the car. He opened the door but said nothing. Emily slid in beside him, her heart still hammering. She looked at her hands, steady now, clean. Julian glanced at her. "You did it." She nodded. "They saw me. Not the woman they remember," he said, "the woman you became." They didn't speak again until they got home. But in the silence, something bloomed. Not pride, not vindication, something purer. Peace. The next morning, headlines burst across social media. Stone heiress faces former housemaid turned tech executive in icy gala confrontation. Emily Johnson, from abandoned to unbreakable. Power without shame. Black woman reclaims her narrative in viral clip. The footage spread fast. The whispers became applause. For every voice that still doubted her, 10 more lifted her name. At the office, her team stood and clapped as she walked in. Bennett nodded once, tight-lipped but respectful. He handed her a document, a formal offer to lead a new innovation division. Equity, authority, voice. Julian waited in her office later that day. He didn't congratulate her. He just handed her a new key card. "Corner suite," he said. "It's yours now." She took it slowly, brushing her fingers across the engraved name. Emily Johnson, Vice President, Innovation and Development. The girl in the snow was gone, buried beneath frost and ash. In her place stood a woman no storm could silence, and she wasn't finished yet. The pain came without warning. It started in her lower back, sharp, knifing, and radiated through her spine as she stood at the edge of the Blackwood conference room. Her hand gripped the glass table. Her vision narrowed. Someone was speaking, but the words blurred. Too many lights, too much pressure. And then the second wave hit, deeper this time, dragging her breath out in a sudden cry. Emily doubled over. Gasps echoed around her. A coffee cup shattered somewhere in the room. Bennett was at her side in seconds, pale and panicked. "Emily, Emily, are you?" "I'm fine," she hissed, sweat breaking across her forehead. Just give me a minute." But her legs buckled. The room spun, and before she could stop it, she collapsed to her knees. The silence that followed wasn't just alarm, it was fear. The VP of Innovation was on the ground, clutching her stomach, fighting for breath. In the world they lived in, power was performance, and Emily was breaking the script. She felt hands under her arms, strong, urgent, familiar. Julian. He had appeared without a word, pushing through the stunned crowd, lifting her like she weighed nothing. "Call Dr. Carter," he snapped to no one in particular. "Now." As he carried her down the hallway, Emily's eyes locked onto the ceiling. Each step jolted a new wave of pain, but worse than the agony was the shame. She hated this, hated being seen this way, fragile, cracked open. She wanted to scream, "Don't look at me like this." But her voice was gone. In the elevator, Julian didn't speak. His jaw was tight, his eyes fierce. She felt his heart pounding beneath her cheek as he held her, but he didn't let it shake him. He didn't flinch. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Julian looked down at her like she'd lost her mind. "For what?" "For making you worry," she breathed. His arms tightened. "You're allowed to fall, Emily. Even fire needs air." The doctor arrived within 15 minutes. Mara had cleared the living room, set blankets and water. Julian stayed beside her, unmoving. "It's preterm stress," Dr. Carter said after the scan. "Too much pressure. She needs to stop. No late nights, no standing through meetings, no pretending she isn't human." Emily closed her eyes. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and her baby's heartbeat, steady, defiant. "I can't stop now," she said. "We're so close." "You'll be closer to losing everything," the doctor warned. "You want to meet this baby? Then rest." Julian exhaled slowly. "She'll rest." But Emily wasn't listening. She was staring out the window, beyond the lights, beyond the city. Her body was screaming, but her mind was louder. If she stopped now, wouldn't that be weakness? Wouldn't that mean they were right? Priscilla, the board, the journalist still whispering about how she got here? "You think I can't do both?" she said finally. "You think I have to choose?" "No," Julian said. "I think you already have chosen. You just forgot that you're not alone." She looked at him, really looked. "I've seen you fight every damn battle," he said. "Now let someone help you carry the shield." His voice cracked. That was new. That broke something inside her. That night as she lay in bed, belly round under soft sheets, Emily cried. Not because of pain, not because of fear, but because she was exhausted. Not just from carrying a life, but from carrying her entire past on her shoulders, proving she was more than her skin, her gender, her scars. Proving she could be brilliant without being perfect. Proving she could love without losing herself. At 3 in the morning, she rose. She walked barefoot to the nursery. It wasn't finished, just white walls, a single armchair, and a mobile spinning quietly above an empty crib. She stood there, hands on her belly as the baby kicked softly. And then, slowly, without pride or ceremony, she dropped to her knees. Not in surrender, in surrendering control. "I don't have to be everything," she whispered into the quiet. "I just have to be yours." The words echoed like a vow, not to Julian, not to anyone else, to the child, to herself. The next day she resigned from the public board meetings, not the company, not her ambition, but the war with perfection. Julian found her in the garden later, sipping tea with her feet in the grass. "You're different," he said. She smiled. No, I'm finally being whole. He sat beside her, lacing his fingers with hers. I liked you even when you were burning yourself alive. She leaned against him. But you love me now that I've stopped. And for once, the world didn't demand more. She had nothing to prove. She had already won. The morning came quietly, wrapped in golden light. No fanfare, no thunder, just the soft breath of a city rising with her. Emily sat alone in the nursery, her baby asleep against her chest. The rhythm of his tiny heartbeat pulsed against her skin like a whisper of the future. Fragile, sacred, infinite. He had no name yet. She hadn't chosen one. Not because she was unsure, but because the moment hadn't felt right, until now. She looked down at his face, serene and unknowing, and whispered, Noah. Your name is Noah. It meant rest, comfort, new beginning. She kissed his forehead. And you'll never have to earn love like I did. In the hallway, the door creaked open. Julian stepped in, barefoot, his shirt wrinkled, hair a mess. He paused at the threshold, watching them in silence. Then his voice, low and reverent. That name suits him? Emily smiled. He fought like a storm, but he landed like peace. Julian crossed the room and sat beside her, placing a gentle hand on Noah's back. He's lucky. No, she said, locking eyes with him. He's chosen. They sat in stillness, no longer afraid of the quiet, but the world hadn't stopped. It never did. Later that day, a message arrived. The board wants her back, not a request, a formal invitation, in a seat with real power, a role that required no apology. Do you want it? Julian asked. Emily looked out the window. New York glimmered, sharp and ruthless, but it no longer scared her. I want to take it, she said, but not because they need me, because you've earned it. No, she corrected, because I built it, while bleeding, while carrying life, while they watched. The boardroom had changed, subtly, new faces, new dynamics, but the table remained the same, long, glossy, cold, a place designed for men who had never once needed to explain their ambition. Emily stepped in wearing a crimson suit that hugged her form like fire. Her hair was pinned high, no jewelry, no makeup to soften her lines. She wanted them to see every scar, every shadow beneath her eyes. This was the face of endurance, of legacy, reborn on her terms. The chairman rose. Ms. Johnson, thank you for coming. I didn't come for thanks, she said calmly, placing her file on the table. I came with conditions. Murmurs swept the room. I'll return as Chief Strategy Officer, she continued, with equity, with full oversight of innovation and inclusive growth, and a formal maternity infrastructure across every Blackwood branch. The chairman blinked. That's, ambitious. Emily leaned forward. So was surviving your silence. The room stilled. Bennett smirked faintly. One of the younger execs nodded. Slowly the power shifted, not in an explosion, but in a quiet surrender to presence that could no longer be ignored. When the vote passed unanimously, she stood. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She turned and left. Because she hadn't come for applause. She had come for her crown. The first time she returned to the mansion, the one she'd once scrubbed floors in, was not as a guest. It was for business. The Stones had been forced into a desperate merger after bad press and market decline. Their new survival depended on the woman they once buried. Nathaniel waited outside. You didn't have to come, he said. She walked past him without pause. No, but I wanted to see the moment power changed hands. Inside, Priscilla Stone stood tall, still elegant, but thinner now, like time had started eating away the lies. Her voice cracked just once. Emily. Emily turned. You wore pearls last time, she said. Now I wear equity. Priscilla said nothing. Emily stepped closer, voice low. I forgive you, not for your sake, for mine. I need the weight off my chest so I can fly. Priscilla nodded once. Not in agreement, in defeat. Emily left the mansion without once looking back. She didn't need closure. She was the ending and the beginning. Weeks passed. Noah grew. Julian proposed, not with a ring, but a letter. One line. Whatever kingdom you choose to build, let me stand beside your throne. She said yes, but only after she'd written her own vows first, because no woman should step into love unfinished. On the day of their wedding, she didn't wear white. She wore deep gold, regal and unapologetic. Her son carried the flowers, her board sent a press release, and when the world watched, she spoke no rehearsed lines. Just this: I was once the girl on the floor, forgotten, discarded, unnamed. Now I walk crowned not by jewels, but by the fight in my bones and the fire in my name. Julian kissed her hand. The crowd rose, and somewhere in the back, a girl in housekeeping uniform cried, not because she envied the bride, but because she saw herself in her. Possible, powerful, next. Emily saw her too, and nodded. The crown she wore wasn't heavy, because it finally fit. Thank you for walking this journey with us, from the shadows of silence to the fire of triumph. Emily's story may have reached its final chapter, but the conversation doesn't end here. We'd love to hear what part of her journey moved you most. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and let us know where in the world you're listening from. Every voice matters, especially yours. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another story of resilience, identity, and truth. Until next time, stay bold, stay kind, and never forget, your voice is your crown.